Hello, my name is Duncan and welcome to Back Away from the Donkey and Bath Books. Any snorting, it's Michael, my Labrador. As much as she's still ill, still having her moments, aren't you, girl? You're snorting around there. This is the second part of my 55 books. A book for every year of my age. Even though I don't feel 55. Just for my birthday. And this is part 2. I was going to record this and get it out today. But yesterday and get it out today, but they got away from me. I am recording in artificial light, so I have light bouncing off ceilings and stuff, but as I'm not some big young influencer like Steve Donahue, I don't have the cash or the money to have lots of lights staring at me. But yes, so this is 55 books, and I've always stated from the start, they are the best books of all time? No, they're not really. They're my books that if my house was on fire and I grabbed them, I'd be incredibly happy to have them all with me because they're all some of my favourite books. They're in no specific order. They're not particularly literary highbrow or anything like that. They're books that I like and I enjoy, that I think they're worth anybody's time. And probably when we get down to the last 15, they're probably more likely to be my favourite 15 books of all time. But overall, these are just books that I really, really love. And so this is part 2. We're going to do from number 36 downwards. I don't know why I did 36 because I must have done 15 on the first one. Yes, 55 because I did 55, 36. Okay, my maths has failed me. Obviously, maybe it's an age thing because I passed a birthday. So that was 20. So this will be another 20 down to 16 will be the last one. And I said I might do short descriptions of the books. I've got some of the books in front of me. Some of the ones I couldn't find the copies, or I know they're in a box somewhere that I'm not willing to go delving. But I said I hope the light's okay, and if anybody can mention below if they think that the lighting is okay, it'd be quite useful for me for any winter recording, because in the winter it gets dark here about sort of 2:30 in the afternoon, and it sort of gets light sort of 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, and some days it can feel like it doesn't get light at all. So I will be using lots of artificial lights. I've got one, I said, bouncing off ceiling, one over there, and there may be a chance I can get hold of another one to chuck some light around if I have to. But just if the light's okay, there's not too much shadow and stuff like that. I think it's okay from my brief quick test. But anyway, I'm rambling. Let me get on with this. And I said the final part will be out on Friday whenever I record it. I'm hoping to probably record that tomorrow for Friday. This one, I said, it's Wednesday at the moment, Wednesday evening. I'm recording it now, and I will edit it probably Thursday morning and get it out for Thursday evening. No guarantees though, because this week's on a bit funny as it is. So let me start. The last we left you, I've got my list in front of me, my favourite list. I left you with the Golden Witch breed, the wonderful Golden Witch breed from Mary Gentle. And so we go to 35. I'm going to do Micah. Sorry, Micah's just been ahead in random bags that I have around this room. This room is like my art room, come spare bedroom, come reading room, come everything room. And I spend a lot of time in a computer room and everything else. So there's a lot of stuff in here. But anyway, I'm rambling. I've gone off thinking. You're only here to see the books. So number 35 is Riverworld and Other Stories. I really like Philip Jose Farmer. I discovered him, I remember discovering him in the early 80s and read the first book of the Riverworld series, which is To Your Scattered Bodies Go, which I still think has got one of the greatest titles ever. This is the short story it was based on originally, and a bunch of other stories. And that's the reason I picked this, is because I think it's really quite a nice introduction to Philip Jose Farmer. Also, it's a really nice self-contained story. The story works really well, and you've got some of his other things. So the basic story of the Riverworld, as I said, is there is a big river, a long, endless river, and people get reincarnated along this river. So you have everybody from Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens, to Goebbels. You can have anybody reincarnated along this river, and it's about the conflicts and stuff, that weird things that happen along that river. That's all I'm going to tell you. The books are To Scattered Bodies Go. I think it's The Dark Design is the second one, and The Fabulous River is the third, or is it the other way around? Can't remember, but well worth your reading. And this one, I love this because this has got a lovely Bruce Pennington cover, which is gorgeous. And I said, no, that's Riverworld. So I'm going to pop these on the floor again, like I did last time. And then we're going to go to number 34. Number 34 is quite a weird one. Well, it's not really weird. But this is Trillion Year Spree from Brian Aldiss. And this is the history of science fiction. It was originally published in the late 70s as Billion Year Spree. And Trillion Year Spree is the updated one, which was published mid-80s, I think. Or was it early 90s? I will tell you. I will look inside and I will tell you. 88. And this is basically a history of science fiction. I don't always agree with all this about his opinions on certain books and what have you, but this will take you through the history of science fiction, talks about certain authors, and it's good as a reference book, but it's also good as just a plain read, because Brian Aldiss has got a great writing style and beautiful prose, even when he's talking about the history of science fiction. And this book is a bit of a behemoth. It's nearly 700 pages long, and it's got a few photos in the middle. But I said I don't always agree with his opinion. Here's one of his famous ones is he believes Frankenstein was the first science fiction novel. I actually totally disagree with that, but that's a story for another time. But yeah, Trillion Year Spree, Brian Aldiss. Not sure if it's still published at the moment in proper book form, or whether it's just a Kindle version. But if you're a big fan of science fiction books, well worth having. And as I said about this list the other day, it's not all science fiction, even though a lot of my stuff I read is science fiction. So now we go to number 33, which is Carl Sagan. And this is Cosmos. This is the book from the TV series that he wrote that was produced in 1980. This is my original book that I got for Christmas that year. And it is at the time, a lot of it went over my head. Here's the TV series, if you want to see the TV series of Cosmos. And it's basically the story of the universe, of everything. And it's like a popular science fiction, but it's quite a heavy read at points. But I love it. I've reread it last year, I think, and I still really, really like it. The TV series, I love Carl Sagan, and I rewatch that. Whenever I rewatch it, I normally end up falling asleep, because Carl Sagan's got one of these voices that puts you to sleep, but in a good way. But yeah, Carl Sagan, Cosmos. And we will stick with the cosmology theme. This one I've not read for years, but I really want to go back and reread it. It's Lonely Hearts of the Cosmos, which is by Dennis Overby, and it's the history of, from Hubble forwards, of all the astronomers and all the cosmologists that discovered things in the universe. And it's really, really a good comprehensive history, but it's written in a really nice style, and it's a really enjoyable book. So if you've got an interest in cosmology and the exploration of space and telescopes and the Hubble telescope, well worth a read. And that's Dennis Overby and The Lonely Hearts of the Cosmos. And the next book, which is number 31, keeping with the real life angle, Tom Wolfe, The Right Stuff, an account of the space race. And I can't praise this book enough. Also, the film, the original film, the 1986 film, was it? With, who was in it? Can't remember who was in it. Yeah, come to me later. But yes, The Right Stuff. Great book. Tom Wolfe, history of the space race and men going into space, and it's well worth really, really good read. You go from everybody from Chuck Yeager forwards. And Chuck Yeager was a test pilot. He never went. Well, he did go into space, but he didn't go into space in the way you think he went to space. I've also actually got Chuck Yeager's autobiography, and good God, was that man arrogant, but hey, maybe you have to be a test pilot. So now we go back to the fiction next, and then we go to number 30, which is a Gene Wolfe book. And I'll tell you this, it's not the only Gene Wolfe book on my list, but this one is The Devil in a Forest, another gorgeous Bruce Pennington cover. This is one of his early books. I think it comes just after Peace. I love. I can't state how much I really love Gene Wolfe, and I love his writing prose. It's so beautiful. But if you go into things like the Book of the New Sun, he writes stories within stories and you're not sure what's real, this is probably one of his most straightforward books, along with, I think, Pandora by Holly Hollander by Gene Wolfe. It's got it's by Gene Wolfe, but it's called Pandora by Holly Hollander. Some of his most straightforward books. This is basically feels like a fairy tale written by Gene Wolfe, without not all the machinations that he has in some of his other books. And for me, if somebody wants to put their toes into the Gene Wolfe sphere, it's quite a good start. And that's Devil in a Forest. And if you can get one with this beautiful Pennington cover, get it. Then next one, book I haven't got around here, is James Herbert, Fluke, which is about a dog, but it's about a man who's been reincarnated as a dog. James Herbert was really big, late 70s, did rats. Famously, he was the biggest selling British author in Britain for the whole of his life. I think he died in mid-2000s somewhere. And also, the other thing he famously did, he did all his covers and did all his own promotion. He was a good writer, good solid writer. Some of it was subjects were quite pulpy. There was The Rats and The Fog, which as a teenager I read. But Fluke is one of his less gory ones, along with The Survivor, which is the less gory one. And I just really, really like it. So yeah, Fluke, James Herbert, it's probably the only James Herbert one on this list. And I'm just going to scratch my nose because it's driving me around the bed. So now we turn the page. So that was 28, Fluke was. Oh, I missed 28. I missed 29, sorry, which is another one I haven't got with me. It is Graham Greene, Brighton Rock. This book, I was forced to read it for English at school, but I really, really like it. It's basically about gangs in Brighton in the 1950s, wouldn't it? And if you've not read any Graham Greene, read it. That's all I can say. But yeah, it's about gangs. They did a film. I think the film had Alec Guinness in it. I can't remember. But yeah, Brighton Rock, Graham Greene was the other one I missed out there. Sorry, I'm going through these quite quickly. Sorry, I scratched my nose again. That was... So I'm just trying to work out where I was. So yeah, I'm confusing myself with these lists. Next, doing a run of books I haven't got hands to, is Robert Heinlein. It's the second Heinlein on this. It's Job, A Comedy of Justice. And like Job in the Bible, the character goes all over the place. And I think it's one of his strongest books. It was done in 82, 83. And quite, yeah, I said I do think it's one of his strongest books. The next one is 26, which is a horror book, which is Ramsay Campbell, The Dollar-Eater's Mother. I remember the first time I read this book. It's very dark. It's very, well, it's a horror book, isn't it? But it's very dark. It's very grimy. And there's a bit in this book that you know what's happened, but you want people to admit it. And Fred goes through a lot of the book, and you're just waiting on tension for somebody to admit that this thing has happened. And that's what always sticks to me about this book. I said I'm not a big horror reader, but this book has always got me. And I love the cover as well. Number 25, book I've got in front of me. Kim Stanley Robinson, wonderful Kim Stanley Robinson. Red Mars, the first of his Mars trilogy. Red Mars, Green Mars, Blue Mars, or is it Blue Mars, Green Mars? Anyway, about the colonization of our Earth, colonization of Mars. Probably one of the best and, to me, feels most scientifically accurate books about the colonization of another planet. It's great. It's quite slow. I know people complain it's quite slow and technical, but I think that's the point of it. It's quite a measured book. I like it. Weirdly, this is the only trilogy I've read by Kim Stanley Robinson. As much as I love this, why have I not read any more? I was looking at his first trilogy, which is about, I think, Orange County, called the Orange County trilogy, which is like 3 separate books, which looks really interesting. But yeah, Red Mars, Kim Stanley Robinson. If you want to see a colonization of a planet done well, this is it. So the next one is number 24. And we are on to the wonderful Anna Caffrey, Crystal Singer. I could have chosen the Dragon books, but this is probably my favourite of her books. It's a trilogy of books. The second and third ones almost turn into almost romantic books. Doesn't mean they're bad, but they're more about romance. But this first book, I think, is excellent. It's about a character called Kilishandra Ree, a failed opera singer who, because she has perfect pitch, is able to control these cutting devices, which you need to have perfect pitch to use to cut this. Crystals used for communication and many other things throughout the galaxy, but the planet is incredibly hostile once you go there. You can't really come off, and because it's hostility, it sort of makes the guild who run it quite mysterious. And I said it's a really good book. I have got the original version of this is published in 4 anthologies called Continuum 1, 2, 3, and 4, creatively, and it's got a slightly different ending. And I actually really quite like the ending in the original one. I've got the books behind me somewhere, but I haven't looked them out. And it sounds like my voice is going, which is not. So yeah, Anne McCaffrey, but any McCaffrey book's worth reading. But I love the Crystal Singer. Then we get to 23, a book I've not got, which is Round Island with a Fridge. This is by Tony Hawks. Nothing to do with the skater. The skater is Tony Hawk. Tony Hawks, who's a comedian, and he basically did a bet in the early 80s. Somebody bet him that he couldn't hitchhike around Ireland with a fridge. And he was bet £100, and he went off and he did it. Bizarrely, the fridge cost him £110, and the bet was for £100. So he hitchhiked around Ireland with a fridge. And I've got a lot of memories of this book because I bought it at Southampton railway station, and I read it on a train journey back home to Weymouth at the time. Well, I started reading it, and that brings quite a few memories for me. But also, it's just a really good, really fun book. If you are a member of Audible and you can pick it up, the Audible version has got him narrating it, and it's really good. Though there are 2 different versions, an abridged one and a unabridged one. I know my wife really, really loves those. So yeah, that's Tony Hawk's Around Ireland with a Fridge. The next one is another travel book. So I have to keep looking at this because I can't remember. Is by Don Starkle, and it's, what's it officially called? Paddle to the Amazon. And him and his son basically decided to paddle from Canada all the way down to the base of the Amazon by canoe. How else would you do it? And it's that story of him and his son doing this journey. And it's a great book. I think it's out of print at the moment. He's done a few other adventures. Really interesting story, travel story. If you like travel and travel stories, try and find a version. So then we go to number 21, Bachelor of Science Fiction, Frederick Pohl, Years of the City. No way is this Frederick Pohl's best book, but I like this. This is a set of connected short stories about the development of New York City in the future. And it's just like, how many stories is there in here? Have a quick look. There is 5 stories, 5 different stories. And they're all connected, and it's all about development of New York in the future. And it's a really, really nice, good read, and I really like it. That's why it's on this list. And then we go to, I think it's my first H.G. Wells on here, which is number 20. I don't know where it is. It's The Island of Dr. Moreau. Don't know what you can say about Wells, but Island of Dr. Moreau is probably my favourite of his books. Yeah, probably is. It's probably why I put it on this list. And next one is number 19. We'll get in here. And it is wonderful Jack Williamson, Darker Than You Think, which, no matter what anybody says, is the greatest werewolf novel ever. If you've not read it, you need to read it. It's fantastic. Reads beautifully, and it's not what you expect it to be. And then we go to my next sheet of paper. Or do we go to the other side? Nope, next sheet of paper. To number 18. And we go to the only entry on this list of Stephen King, Salems Lot. And I will say one of the best vampire stories. Modern vampire stories. When I say modern, I mean not Bram Stoker ever written. I really, really love it. I think it's probably King's best novel. I'm not a huge King aficionado, but I love this book. I've got 2 copies of it, actually. This is my original one. I've got a newer one I picked up a while ago in a charity shop, which is a really nice copy to read from. But yeah, Salems Lot. Stories of a vampire in a small Maine town, which is, everything's in a small Maine town with Stephen King. And that's it. And next we go to number 17. Ed McBain, Cop Hater. First of the 87 precinct novels, detective novels. It's set in New York and it's in a summer, so you get this oppressive heat that permeates throughout the book, and they're trying to find this serial killer, this man who's killing cops. And it's a great book, and my dad actually gave it to me originally to read. I've not read all the 87 precincts books. If you want to know somebody who's a aficionado on these, go and watch Criminale. He loves these books. It's his favourite author, I think. And then finally, number 16, which is Jonathan Lethem, Fortress of Solitude. There we are. This is the story of 2 boys in Brooklyn in the 1970s, one black, one white. And so you've got the racial tensions and the racial stuff going on in the 70s at that point. And then you've also got this underlying thing of what happens if they're getting superpowers. Sounds weird, and it is weird, but it's great. Jonathan Lethem, he's got beautiful prose, and this reads really well. This is the only one of his books I've actually read, because I went searching for his first book, which is counted as a science fiction book, was called Gun with Occasional Music. And I went searching for that, and I couldn't find a copy. And I ended up stumbling across this one. So I picked this up, and I read this, and I absolutely love it. So Jonathan Lethem, probably one of the most modern authors I've actually got on this list, because most of my stuff seems to come pre-2000. So yeah, that was number 16. And for Friday, we'll be releasing numbers 1 to 15, which probably really are some of my 15 favourite books of all time. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Any comments about the books on there, about what I've got on there, or what I've not got on there, would be great. And any comments about my lighting would be quite useful. So that's great. And I will speak to you all very, very soon.